Hi everyone. I thought it'd be quite interesting to start this series where I sort of build the scripts and I show you guys how I build the scripts for whenever we do our Cheoktower games because it's quite an interesting process. I think it's very interesting also for people to see what goes into why I put certain characters in, um, the reasons why I built certain scripts a certain way, and I guess in the first place, why do I even build these custom scripts? Because Blood on the Clock Tower, you guys know there are three base scripts. So the tutorial brewing, trouble, my goodness. So let's, I think you can see this right. Base scripts. So there is trouble brewing. There is one we call Bad Moon Rising, or we call it BMR. And then the last one is Sex and Violence. So these are our base scripts. Oh, it just sounds like a lecture now. These are our base scripts, and they are meant to be showing off the very base mechanics of the game. Lah. So Trouble Brewing, you guys have already played, most likely. It's the very most basic script with like the very most basic kind of mechanics. Nothing too messy, nothing too complex. Like the pure, like, let's vote, let's get people out, this sort of a thing. Bamboo Rising is a little bit more of an intermediate kind of script where you learn a bit more about um the idea of like not dying and also multiple deaths in one go. So the whole point of Bamboo Rising is that you learn, why certain deaths are happening, why certain deaths not happening. Essentially, is the whole thing around Bamboo Rising is the fact that death is information. There's very little info gathering roles in that script, whereas in Sex and Violence, it's very much very heavy in the info gathering. Very little in the whole like actions, like trying to protect people, trying to cause multiple deaths is very, very little. And they also introduce a new mechanic called madness, which I will probably cover a few more months down the line. But right now it's just gonna be something that you guys take note of, that these are the base scripts. And the reason why we do custom scripts, right, is because amongst the base scripts where they're all having their own very unique characters, right, there's also these experimental characters, they call it. Um, so these are like sort of like the expansion pack where they have more interesting, more new form of like abilities and mechanics that they introduce. And I just think it's very fun. And the fact that right now I'm on the way, to me, is gonna be a new set of the game, including the expansion pack. So I'm quite excited. So that's why I wanted to build a bit more of a experimental custom script here. Introducing some of these experimental characters just to play around a bit. It's quite fun. So yes, so with every script that I do that's custom, right, I try to focus on a specific theme. So for when I did my birthday one, it was a bit more of like a something that's very easy. Basically, it's trouble brewing, but plus more of the extra characters that I like. Removing some of the characters that I did think are a bit clunky and replacing them with very fun stuff. Like Savant, like Gambler. These are like, to me, characters that are very fun. But I don't take away from the fact that it's still quite easy to understand. I can bring that script to a group with like a mixed experiences. Some who are very new to the game and some who are a little bit more understanding of the game, so they want a bit more of a challenge than just regular trouble brewing. Um, so that was the main thing I wanted to do. And with this script, I'm gonna call it Recruiter Viewed Your Profile. So I'm actually gonna build this script right now. I have like sort of an idea of what I want to put in, but I have not yet 100% defined what I want to put in. So let's just start with, you know, building the script together. And as I articulate about like why I put certain things in, or what are some considerations I need to take note of, you guys will be on that journey with me. Okay, so let me just take my drink first. I'm filming this right now at first house, which is quite fun. Hence why the whole setup. Alright, so let's begin. So this, first of all, is the website called script.thecloud.com. So this is basically where I build our scripts from. It's very, very intuitive. It's very well designed. It's very easy to use. And yeah, I think this thing is really, really fun. You're able to choose the base, which covers the three that we talked about, and then the experimental. Homebrew is completely out of my league. It's way too advanced already. Like, it's for people who have way too much time in their hands. Yeah. So first things first, we're going to put in the demons. So when you build a script, or when I build a script, it's best to put in the demons first because they are the ones with the very, very interesting mechanics and powers. Essentially, what the good people have to do is fight against these powers. So you should start with the strongest people in the entire script, which are usually the demons. So with this recruiter viewer profile thing, I sort of wanted to go with this idea or the mechanic that you're able to become evil midway through the game or at the very start of the game. You pass the bag around, you pick a token out from the bag, and you realize, oh, okay, great, I'm on a good team. And then I wake you up and be like, okay, actually, you're evil. So that's actually a mechanic that is inbuilt in quite a lot of these demons. So that's why I wanted to showcase that mechanic itself. So we're going to put in a lot of Typhon. We're going to put in the Kazali and something a little bit simpler, but not something that you guys have seen before. Where is it? Fengu. There you go. So I'm going to choose these 3 demons. You can go up to 4 demons, 1 minimum, of course. But I chose these 3 demons because they actually synergize really well with each other. So let me go through them one by one. So we have the Kazali. Each night you choose a player, they die. You choose which players are which minions, minus question mark to plus question mark outsiders. So very simple. All of these, as you can see, they choose a player at night and they die. Very simple, basic minion, basic demon stuff, right? What's interesting about the Kazali is that when I'm putting the tokens into the bag, there's only one evil token that goes in there, and that's the Kazali. And basically, that one person who picks the Kazali token is the demon, and is actually the team captain of the game. What they then do is then choose which players are which minions. So essentially, they can just pick their favorites, pick whoever they want to be specific minions, which is very fun because then you get to sort of create your own team. It's not up to chance sometimes. And that's where a little bit of strategy can come to play. You can, choose people you synergize with really well, or you could also, pick specific people that you know are perfect for that minion. You know that this player is a bit more brainy, they're able to memorize a lot of details, give them something like a spy or widow. If they are someone who likes to, they're always already evil, like Fur. People always assume that Fur is evil, right? So give them something that's very loud and out there that, that could cause a lot of chaos. So that's the interesting part about Kazali. The plus question mark minus question mark outsider sort of a thing is just more so just to help balance the thing, because if you think about it, right, I am putting only one evil token in there. I can put as many outsiders as I want in there, and the Kazali could actually just choose whoever is the outsider to be the minion. So a game that usually will have 2 outsiders suddenly becomes like no outsiders. So it's a bit unbalanced in that way. So I would then have to balance it through outsiders. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to write some corresponding interactions or mechanics that I need to consider, because when you're building this script, right, you build it from the evil team first, and essentially what you put up in the Townsfolk and outsiders are a bit more so to balance and kind of provide good reasons for bad how do I say this? Good reasons for bad interactions to happen. So for example, later I'll get to that when I go to the minions. So I'm just going to create a very quick checklist here of watchouts, or how should I call this? Balance watchouts. Okay, so the first one we need to think about is the idea of outsiders. Okay, so we need to choose specific outsiders that don't mess up this um, uh, balance stuff. Okay, a lot of Typhon. Each night choose a player, they die. Evil characters are in a line. You are in the middle, plus 1 minion, minus question mark to plus question mark outsider. So this is a very interesting one where it's a little bit like Kazali, where only the Lord of Typhon token goes in the bag. Everything else is a good character in there. Depending on who draws the Lord of Typhon, they essentially will be the center of an evil line. Okay, so let's say if I draw the Lord of Typhon token, I know now that my 2 people beside me are going to be minions, and they will have to be all in the line. I cannot be at the end of the line. I must be dead smack center, or rather, I need to be in between 2 evil people at least. Another thing is that it also pluses 1 minion. So this is where the balance comes in, because yes, a lot of Typhon gives you 1 extra minion. So for example, if it's a 13-player game, there's going to be 1 demon and 3 minions. But with a lot of Typhon game, it's going to be 1 lot of Typhon and 4 minions. So if you think about it, that's really, really scary, right? If for a good player, suddenly the evil team's a lot bigger than we thought. The counter to that is the fact that the Lord of Typhon has to be in what we call a Typhon line. They are all in line. You know that there's always going to be one section of the entire circle that's always going to be evil. So if you're a good character, you know that there is a lot of Typhon in play. You start looking for one evil player. You can sort of find out where the rest of them are. So that's where the counterbalance is. Same thing for Kazali, because I'm gonna wake people up and tell them like, oh, by the way, you're now a minion. They could have been outsiders from the start, so that's why there's a whole minus plus question mark outsiders just for me to balance it later on. And last but not least, Fangu. So Fangu is a little bit more of the, I guess, simpler one. It comes from Sex and Violets. It's one of the base scripts. Each night, choose a player. They die. The first outsider this kills becomes an evil Fangu, and you die instead, plus one outsider. So the Fangu is very simple. They are able to kill people at night as per usual. But a very interesting thing is that, first of all, they add an extra outsider into the game. So there's a very big indicator there's a Fangu game. You know that there's an extra outsider in play. Not only that, but if you look at the line again, the first outsider this kills becomes an evil Fangu, and you die instead. So essentially what happens is that there's going to be outsiders in the game, right? And I'm the evil Fangu. If I choose to kill certain people and I happen to just kill an outsider that day, I will die, and that outsider becomes the new Fangu. They become a new member of the evil team, and they are specifically now the demon. So you're essentially jumping your demonhood, which we call a Fangu jump. There's a Fangu jump onto an outsider who becomes the evil person, who becomes the demon, and they will be now part of the new evil team. Specifically, this is affecting only the first outsider this kills, so which means that after I do a Fangu jump, the new Fangu cannot jump to another outsider, because then that's not very fair if you think about it. If there are three outsiders in play, that essentially means, is there a chance that all three becomes evil? That's where the balance comes in. Only the first outsider this happens, this kills, becomes the evil Fangu. So we have our demons in line already. This is where we add the minions. So when you're thinking of minions, right, there are essentially two kinds of minions. There are quiet minions and there are loud minions. So quiet minions are those minions where they are able to use their abilities without a very obvious effect, or like without a very obvious tell that they are in play, or that it doesn't, it's not as easily traceable as loud minions. So minions like this are poisoner, where you can be poisoning certain people, but it's very hard for them to trace back who is the one poisoning them. It could be things like the Baron from Trouble Brewing that you guys are also aware of. They just add two outsiders, that's about it. You are not able to track down who is the one who added these outsiders, just purely based on like social vibes. Um, Maybe something a little bit more recent is, for example, the Marionette. For example, the Marionette is they don't even know they're a minion, so that's why they're the most quiet minion, if you can actually argue it that way. And then there's a lot of minions where a bit more obvious that that's in play. So, for example, recently we saw the witch. You know that the witch is in play because there's no other explanation for the kind of interaction. So you're like, okay, I definitely know there's a witch in play because someone who nominated just died. There's also Godfather, who is a little bit more obvious because if an outsider dies, an extra person gets to get killed. That's a bit more loud as well. So it's all about balancing these minions, and you choose those minions based on what kind of minions best support the demons that we have in play. So we have these demons here, and we want to go for something a little bit more quiet. The reason being because you want to be able to let the demons shine, first of all. And when it comes to specific demons like the Law of Typhon, right? Identifying who is evil is going to be very scary for them, because it's because they're all in a line, right? You know that one person in that line is already evil, you're able to sort of like figure out where the rest of them are. So we should go for someone a little bit more quiet. So I love a Marionette. I'm going to add in a Marionette. And a Marionette is also great because it helps with a lot of Typhon line. You could be a good player who think you're good, but you're actually the Marionette, and you're actually in the middle of this whole Typhon line. If you think about it, it sort of breaks it up because you think you're good. So if you know it's a lot of Typhon game and you're the Marionette but you don't know it, you can be like, oh, but I'm good, so I think my neighbors should be okay. But lo and behold, you're actually in the middle of a Typhon line. So that's always fun to help the evil team with. Um, I want to add in the organ grinder because I think this is a new minion for everyone here. It's going to be super fun. Um, I already anticipate it's going to be something that's going to be like, oh my god, and sort of a thing, and it will actually really screw up the good team more than they think they would. Okay. Um, I don't want to put in a spy because a spy is a little bit intense, but I will put in their sort of like younger cousin, the widow. This is going to be more fun. And also when you're building scripts, right, you also need to think about another thing. I'm going to add number 2 here, which is about misinformation. So misinformation, there must be ways for you to get misinformation because that gives the evil team a bit more plausible deniability. It also gets a reason for the good team to sort of question to make sure that, does the information make sense? If it doesn't make sense, I shouldn't be broadcasting it, or you shouldn't be building walls around it. So this is obviously in the form of poisoning or okay, what we call it droisening. How do I spell this? Droisening. Yeah, so drunk or poisoning. So widow is one that actually helps out with the poisoning. Um, if you're thinking a little bit more of the quiet ones, an assassin is good because they're a one and done. They get it, they get the kill and they get it done. And a devil's advocate. Oops, I did not mean to add this. Devil's advocate. Okay, so what I have now introduced, right, is more and more things that we need to balance later on. So with the addition of the devil's advocate, they choose a living player every night, different to last night. If executed tomorrow, they don't die. So they basically provide the evil team a bit of cover, a bit more of protection. And that being said, right, there must be reasons for protection from that good team to make sure that the evil team is able to bluff their way out of it. Someone may be accused of being a devil's advocate, but they can be like, oh, but I'm just a character who actually protects, So it gives them a bit of a cover out also. It also gives the evil chance they give the evil team a chance to actually sort of like frame certain people who are actually good protectors and being like, oh, you didn't die, are you a devil's advocate? That's why, sort of a thing. Assassin adds in extra kills, so there must be reasons for extra kills at night. That's another thing that we need to balance later on. So later on, when we build out our townsfolk and our outsiders, these are the things I want to make sure that are also included, so that there are ways for the evil team to bluff out of, or sort of for the evil team to sort of frame certain good people who actually provide these things lah. Okay, so very quickly, I'm gonna explain these minions. Devil's Advocate, each night choose a living player, different to last night. If executed tomorrow, they don't die. So very simple, they just choose a different person every night. They cannot keep picking the same person. They can choose also themselves if they want to. And then when it comes to the daytime, when you guys are voting who to, get executed, if they get enough votes, they are executed, but they don't die. So basically, the Advocate helps to keep evil people alive. Also good for framing certain good people as well. Assassin once became a knight, choose a player, they die, even if for some reason they could not. So this is also good because it helps bypass a lot of the protection that we will be putting into the townsfolk. Assassin also helps to ensure that the game goes a little bit faster. The speed of the game is also very important because I don't want to keep making sure that we don't execute, and then we end up playing for 3 hours. So Assassin helps to kind of push that a little bit further, get extra kills in. It's always very good to shock the town and sort of like cause a bit of chaos along the way. The Widow. So this is a very new one. It's an experimental character. On your first night, look at the grimoire and choose a player. They are poisoned. One good player knows a widow is in play. So let's read that backwards. One good player knows a widow is in play. So from the very existence of a person picking a widow token, I have to tell one good player that there is a widow in play. So they are able to know that, okay, we have a widow, we know that they know who everyone is and someone is poisoned. On your first night, you look at the grimoire and choose a player. So they only look at the grimoire once, whereas the spy is to look every night. The widow only gets to have one chance at the start, and they get to choose who is poisoned as long as they live. So the widow will choose someone to get poisoned. They will have their ability malfunction, and the poisoning will keep up as long as the widow is alive. So if you guys get rid of the widow, the poisoning goes away. Very interesting minion. Some people will argue it's a worse spy, but sometimes I think it's also quite fun because that whole idea of paranoia of like, oh my god, there's a widow in play. Does that mean we need to be a bit more cagey, or does that mean we get to share information out loud because they already know who we are? It's also possibly good for the good team, so there's a bit of balance there as well. Yeah, I think that's a very interesting one. Widow can also poison themselves, but I won't go into the whole strategy part of things. If you draw the widow token, you can come to me and ask me about that. Marionette, I think something that's very simple and what we saw before, but it's so much fun. You think you're a good character, but you are not. The demon knows who you are. You neighbor the demon. So think of it as like an evil drunk. So you draw a token, you think you're that character, but actually you're not that character. So the drunk, you're actually an outsider and you're good. Whereas in this case, you think you're a good character, but you're actually an evil minion. You're the marionette. And specifically, you are beside the demon, and the demon knows who exactly you are. So when I pass out the tokens, I'll wake up the demon and I'll tell them who the marionette is. I get to choose who the marionette is, so that's always fun. And yeah, I think it's a very, very fun character. It gives a lot of reasons for people to believe their information and make sure that they are able to contribute to the game, but in a less controlled way lah. It's quite chaotic. I love it. Um, and yeah, I think the Marionette is always very, very fun. In fact, I believe in the official game, right, the Marionette is the highest success rate of minions because you can be the most like convincing liar, but you're not as convincing as if you think you're really telling the truth. So think about it. Organ Grinder. So this one's a very fun one. It's also sort of it's like a middle of I think okay, honestly it's a little bit of a loud minion. Um all players keep their eyes closed when voting, and the vote tally is secret. Each night, choose if you are drunk until dusk. So basically, we'll do the whole voting system thing, and instead of keeping your eyes open and then you seeing who votes so that you can vote with them, or seeing who votes to see if they're suspicious, this character actually makes sure that all that cannot happen. Everyone's eyes are closed, and people will vote, but you won't know who actually voted on it with you. So this is really fun because it gets rid of the whole coordination of voting, at the same at least for good, because then at least for the evil team, they're able to coordinate their votes without looking suspicious. It's very, very useful for a lot of Typhon because if you're a lot of Typhon line, you're all going to be voting together. So Organ Grinder helps to keep that in check. And it also comes in with their inbuilt sort of like a off switch because you can see each night choose if you're drunk until dusk. So you can use it to, turn off this whole organ grinder thing to make people think there isn't one in the first place and hit them when they the least expect it. Or it could, be used to frame someone. Let's say if a good player dies and then you suddenly just stay drunk all the way, right? That could so honestly just pin that good player as the organ grinder. It helps drive some attention away from you as well. So, one interesting thing also about this set of minions that I chose is very specific also to Kazali because you want to be able to have a good variety of different minions that do different things so that the Kazali has sort of a choice of what they want to put in play. Do you want someone to be able to protect you but also keep that vote tally secret? Or do you want extra kills but also someone poisoned at night? Do you want to be able to look at the grimoire but also have someone like a marionette to mess with information as well? So it's all about strategy for the Kazali when they get to choose. Giving this sort of a chance for them to choose across a variety of different minions that do very different things. It's always very fun. Has a bit of strategy, and yeah, I think it's just very interesting. So it's best not to add in all poisoning sort of minions at one go, and they're like, there's no difference in what I choose, right? So forces them to make a decision because you can't have all five minions in play as Kazali there. Alrighty, so we shall now move on to the hardest part, honestly, of any script building. This is the one where I always had to like redo because it's just so difficult, and I just want to make sure that everyone has a fun time playing with characters they've never played with before, characters that are going to be able to learn specific things, be very powerful, have fun in their interactions with other people as well. So let's get straight into it. I usually start with the outsiders first, so like I will build bottom up. Sometimes you will probably have to shift around the outsiders if it doesn't make sense, but in this case, I'll do outsiders first. Lunatic proved to be really fun the last time, so I'm gonna put in a lunatic. Um, okay, I will add a drunk. And it looks quite rough because you have all these like you think you're a blank but you're not. Like you have the lunatic, you have the drunk, you have the marionette. I think that's the part of the fun of the game. I think that's what people actually enjoy. I noticed from you guys when you guys play, you guys seem to enjoy these interactions the most. So let's try to put them in there. I'll explain the drunk specifically why I chose this character once I finish building the rest of the outsiders. Hmm. Do I have enough? Okay, I have drunkening already, so I don't need to add in any more because I could add in a sweetheart, which makes a player drunk. I could also add in a puzzle master, which makes people drunk. But I don't think we need any more drunkening. At this rate, our demons don't poison. We have a widow that poisons, so that's fine. A drunk and a lunatic sort of like is a pretty bad outsider. So bad as in bad for the good team. Um, yeah, I don't think I'll add any more drunkening for now. I can also add it through the Townsfolk, which is always more fun. Mm, I want to introduce Damsel as a potential outsider for everyone to play with. I think that's super fun. And okay, I like the Plague Doctor. That's always fun. Okay, so that's what we have. Lunatic. You think you're a demon, but you are not. The demon knows who you are and who you choose at night. So, our dear friend Daryl Ping was the first ever lunatic of our games. I think he had a really fun time. He said he was really embarrassed by the fact that he was a lunatic, but that's always very fun because um, it gives you an extra like mini side quest of like, am I actually the demon? Am I actually controlling this game? What's happening? That kind of thing. So it's always very fun. It sounds harsh, but actually it's not that bad because you will learn very very quickly that you're not actually the demon. Through if you're paying attention to your minions, what's happening in the town, who's get killed at night. Yeah, it's always very fun. Plague Doctor. So this is a new one. This is an experimental character. When you die, the storyteller gets a minion ability. So this is always very fun because we want the outsiders to be a bit more cagey with what information that they or what character they are. We have two kinds of outsiders. We have what we call face up or face down outsiders. It's something very similar to like quiet and loud. I just don't know why there's a whole set of like terms for it. But essentially, the outsiders, they are able to be very upfront about who they are, tell people that they are outsiders. Whereas these four that we choose here right, are more likely going to be very face down. In fact, half of these people don't even know that they're outsiders, right? So, a plague doctor, you are one who probably don't want to be known to the evil team. What this is good for is because one, you are able to be a bit more cagey for information, and that's good for the good team. Good for the bad team because then you're probably going to be out there trying to like bluff that you're a good team, cause a bit of chaos, cause a bit of misinformation amongst the good team. So that's always good. Um, that being said, you're always as an outsider still playing for the good team, so be a bit more careful with what you do and what you say to people. So when you die, a storyteller gets a minion ability. So I get to choose what minion ability I get. Initially, it used to be a not in play minion, but then I think people sort of started to understand, they purposely killed the Plague Doctor to find out who was not in play, and therefore who is in play. So they wanted to remove that meta a bit. So there could be a case where there's, two widow people poisoned, people who are widow poisoned, two people who are going to be killed by the assassin, who knows? So that's up to the storyteller, and it's a very, very impactful and a very dangerous outsider to be killing. So hopefully, you guys don't kill the Plague Doctor so quickly. And the damsel. So all minions know a damsel is in play. If a minion publicly guesses you once, your team loses. So this is where we add in another balance watcher, which is alternate um, win conditions. So the damsel gives the evil team an extra win condition. When there is a damsel in play, all minions know that there's a damsel in play. So which means that in the night, I'll wake up the minions and be like, "There's a damsel." So what the minions have to do now is also find out who is the damsel, because if they publicly guess you once meaning that they have the entire evil team has one guess shared amongst them. Minions can guess whether they are alive or dead, as long as the damsel is alive, sober and healthy. The minion can just be like, "I'm a minion. I guess that so and so is the damsel." If they are the damsel, evil team wins immediately. If they are not a damsel, then their guess is wasted, and then the damsel can happily come out and be like, "Hi guys, I'm the damsel, thank God," sort of a thing. So, very scary, very very scary outsider, because you don't want to be telling people that you're the damsel, because if a minion catches a wind of that, they're gonna guess you, they're gonna win immediately. So, we need to make sure that since the evil team has an alternate win condition here with the damsel, we want to make sure that the townsfolk and the good team also has a win condition for their side. Yeah. The drunk. I was gonna mention why I chose this drunk character, because from a storyteller's point of view, right, the drunk is someone that I assign not based on who picks it from the back, because I don't know who's gonna be the drunk until I look at the grim. Once I get everyone's tokens in there, I'm like, okay, this person is gonna be drunk. I've talked about with Kazali and Lord Typhon, they could potentially choose these people who drew outsider tokens to be their minions. And if that's the case, right, the drunk is like sort of like a ace out my sleeve. Like, okay, I realized that they happen to choose all the outsiders. The town is super strong. They're gonna struggle when we actually get into play. I have to then be able to then use the drunk to sort of balance things a bit, because of the minus question mark plus question mark outsiders thing. I can decide, okay, maybe the town is going to be super strong now. I can nerf one of the very strong characters by making him drunk, for example. So it helps to me to balance the game. It helps to make sure that there are outsiders in play, and yeah, it helps the evil team because outsiders are not meant to help the good team. They're meant to help the evil team. All right. So one also thing that when you add more and more characters, right, you'll see some of these like things at the side here. These are just very specific interactions between these two characters that one must note of. And this is something that every player needs to know of. So for example, if there's a plague doctor in play and they die, and let's say if I choose to get the marionette ability, if the storyteller would gain the marionette ability, one of the demon's good neighbors becomes the marionette, which means that I add in an extra like evil person into the game. So these are just things because these are very like fringe examples, and they could be confusing to think about. So this is just a way to for everyone to lay out and be like, okay, it's a very confusing interaction, but this is how it's going to be played. So only need to worry about this when you are confirming that these are in play. If not, you don't have to worry about it because they just are very, very specific. Only if these two characters are in play, sort of thing. Yeah. Just to let you know, this is called a Jin. It's one of the Fable characters. If you can see a Fable. Basically, Fable characters just help to add in like extra rules to keep gameplay balanced and fun. Now the hard part, which comes to the townsfolk. So when we're picking townsfolk, right, there are a couple of different kinds of townsfolk. Um, First of all, there is the info townsfolk, and then there is the ability. So I guess the way you can call it is the knowers and the doers. So there are always two kinds of townsfolk. Knowers are people like, if you look at the very original script, you have travel brewing, you have like empath, you have fortune teller, you have librarian. These are townsfolk that know things. Whereas you have the doers where they are the ones they don't gain information, but they actually have like an ability. You have the monk who protects. You have um the virgin, who kills when a denominator is a good person. Or sorry, a townsfolk in a sense. So they don't have inherent knowledge that they gain, but they are actually the ones with abilities that affect other characters. Amongst the knowers, there's also specific. Can I tap this? No, I can't. There is the first nighters. There are also those that get every night. They also have people who gain information in the day. So like sometimes it's usually the in the day characters, yeah. So first night it will be like, investigator, clockmaker, grandmother. These are characters that know things that they only know one thing at the very start and they don't learn anything else. Every night characters are the ones who wake up and like, they learn certain things. You learn about characters, dreamers, you learn about uh, within that also you learn about uh, alignments, whether they're good or evil. So if we have like the unpath, we have people who know about characters. So, washerwoman, you have the dreamer, you have all that kind of stuff as well. And also you learn about positions. So where evil is sitting, where are they located? These are you'll see, I guess, other towns for later on. There's Shugenja, there is what else is there? Yeah, I guess that's one thing. I guess empath is also a bit more of a position because you know that the people beside you are evil or not. So you need to balance and make sure there is a good enough coverage of this. It's good to at least have one of each lah. I try to make sure that there is a couple more than that, but it's up to you and what makes balance make sense. So I will add in a couple of first night, and when I'm doing this, right, this is where I need to look out for these balance watcher that I already had put up just now. So outsiders, we already have done that. So we don't have to worry about that anymore. Misinformation, protection, extra kills, and win conditions. Okay. I have a couple that I was thinking of already. So first thing I wanted to put in was a Shukenja. This is a new one. But this is one where it's a knower, a first night knower, and they also know specifically about positioning. So you start knowing if your closest evil player is clockwise or anti-clockwise in a circle. If equidistant, this info is arbitrary. So quite simple, you will start to know whether your evil person, the closest evil person to you is to your left or to your right. They specifically put clockwise and anti-clockwise because it's then relative to everyone in the circle. Everyone gets to know the same direction. So for example, if it's equidistant, you have beside you one evil person and another evil person. I can show you either direction because, like I said, this information is arbitrary. Um, but that's in a very specific scenario. It's also good because it gives you a bit of a direction of where to hunt first. That being said, the closest evil person to you may be a minion and may not be the demon who is completely opposite you. So at least it helps keep get things started for you guys. Like, and it's a very good starting information. I'll put in the grandmother because it's also good for good players to know other good players. Knowing where evil is not it's good, but it's not the best information to work off because you need to be able to trust certain people, find out who are your allies and who has information that is worth collaborating with. So the grandmother helps with that. Grandmother also helps to deal with this idea of helping with extra kills. If the grandchild dies, the grandmother dies as well. So that helps with extra kills. So that's always fun. And I think I'll use these two as my start knowing. Um, Looking at what else to put in here, I'm going to put in the Elsa here because this is a very fun uh, townsfolk. Each day, if you perfectly guess which players are minions and which are demons, good wins. So this helps us with our alternative win conditions already. So it's fair. The townsfolk have an extra win condition. The evil people have an extra win condition in the form of the damsel as well. Elsa here gets to publicly say, I'm not Elsa here. I guess that so and so are minions and this person is a demon. If they're correct, then good wins immediately. Um, so now we need to add in a bit more of Noah's. What are some interesting Noah abilities that will be good? Cannibal is always fun. I always wanted to play with Cannibal. It's like it's something similar to like an Undertaker, but instead of knowing what the character is that died through execution, you actually get their ability. So as it reads here, you have the ability of the recently killed executee. If they are evil, you are poisoned until a good player dies by execution. It's a lot of words, but essentially just focus on the first line. You have the ability of the recently killed executee. So whoever dies by execution, you sort of know, you won't know exactly what they are, but you have to deduce what they are based on what I go through with you in the night phase. So for example, if you guys killed the Shugenja, the cannibal will wake up and I'll show them a direction of the closest evil person to them. So I wouldn't say that, oh, you killed a Shugenja. You have to sort of figure it out based on what I show you. If you kill the grandmother, I will give you a grandchild. So it's a very interesting character because it helps to replicate and duplicate some of the abilities that you have there. So you sort of give like a second chance, and to gain, even more information. So if anything, this should be more incentive to kill people, right? So let's hope that's the case. Um, if they are evil, you are poisoned. So basically, this just allows me to then, let's say if the evil person is bluffing as Shugenja, I'll give you fake Shugenja information because you are poisoned. That's basically what it means. It just allows me to reinforce the bluffs that the evil team are doing. So that's the balance there. It's all about balance. Um, do I want to put a dreamer? I'll put a dreamer there first, just to see if I want to do that or not. Because dreamer is quite good when it comes to this game because if you think about it, right, Kazali and Lord of Typhon, the minions already have a built-in bluff because they drew a token. They know they think that they are that character, right? And then suddenly they're told to be a minion instead. What that means that whatever they drew, right, is not in play. So it's quite powerful because they don't have to worry about, looking for the demon to get bluffs. They can go straight into it and build a lot of social credit already. So that's why I think Dreamer may be a bit weak for the townsfolk here because yes, I can show them, good and evil characters, right? But it's very, very much confirmed that they are gonna link, that they're gonna latch onto whatever they drew from the bag. So uh, I'll KIV Dreamer first because I don't think it's the strongest one out there. Fisherman's fun. It's a once per game ability. During the day, visit the storyteller for some advice to help your team win. So it's very much similar to like the artist. So artists, you go up to them and be like, you ask a question, you ask me, the storyteller, a question, and I tell you a yes or no. But instead of asking me specific info, you come to me and I'll give you advice. So it won't be like, oh, you learn that this is in play, or you learn about this person being evil. You get advice, pure advice that will help you to uh, get closer to winning. So it won't be something like it will sound a bit something like I think you should follow this question of inquiry, or I think you should not trust this player, or I think you should look at this side of the circle. The very solid advice, things you should do, that you should listen to me because I am the one with the grim, right? I am the one that has knowledge of what all that's happening. I will tell you exactly what you should be doing to win. And it's something that you're able to take away, go to the rest of your team and be like, hey, the storytellers thinks that we should do this to win. So that's why I think Fisherman is quite fun. I'm going to put in the gossip because that's what people liked the last time. I'm going to put in the high priestess. High priestess, each night learn which player the storyteller believes you should talk to the most. It's a little bit like Fisherman, just that high priestess is a very much up to me sort of a thing. You get to talk to certain people and try to gain information from them. I can point you to someone who has information. I could point you to someone who maybe is a lunatic. You can help them, discover that they're a lunatic. I could point you straight to a minion who doesn't have bluffs, and then you could catch them in a lie. It's up to me. Gossip, public statement. If they was true, the player dies, which will help us with extra kills. Huntsman is good because it helps me add the damsel, and it also gives the damsel a bit of like a way out. Once per game at night, choose a living player. The damsel, if chosen, becomes a not in play townsfolk. So essentially, the huntsman is there to make sure that they are looking for this damsel, and they're looking out to make sure that the evil team does not have the extra win condition. So the huntsman is very strong, but they only have one shot. And when there is a huntsman in the back, there must be a damsel. You can have a damsel without a huntsman, but you can't have a huntsman without a damsel. So that's a very, very big thing that I need to make sure that happens. All right. I'm going to put in a pacifist because this helps with protection. Executed good players might not die, so it gives the good team a little bit more of a protection role. People who die by execution may or may not die, and I can just save them, just for the sake of it. So it's good information for the good team because they can be like, oh, maybe they were pacifist safe because they were good, um, or it could be something else. It also is a good bluff for a devil's advocate, so that's good to have there. Philosopher is a good one as well. I always wanted to play this one, but it's quite intense, but I'm gonna give it a try. Once per game at night, choose a good character, gain that ability. If this character is in play, they are drunk. So the philosopher is able to choose any good character and gain that ability. So it's very, very powerful because you can have a fisherman go up and ask their question already, get their advice, and the philosopher then turns into a fisherman and they can get a second round of advice. So it's quite great. So that's very, very fun. Or let's say if you have your high priestess that's already dead, then you can turn yourself into the high priestess, gain the high priestess ability, and then just carry on that role. That being said, if you gain the ability of a specific character, if that character is still in play and alive, they are drunk. So that helps with adding a bit more misinformation in town. It's also good because it's a bit of a game of chicken, Like, do you want to use your ability straight away and maybe get someone drunk, or do you want to wait until you know what's in play and then you use it, but you might get killed by that? Um, what are we missing? I think we need a bit more protection, so let's throw in a tea lady. Helps with the positioning as well. If both your life neighbors are good, they can't die. Simple. Um, any more misinformation I should put in? Village Idiot. I want to put in Village Idiot. Because it's very fun. You can have multiple and also introduces some form of drunkening as well. Each night choose a player, you learn their alignment. +0 to +2 village idiots. One of the extras is jump. So there can be multiple village idiots in the town. There can be up between 1 to 3. And if there are multiple village idiots, at least one or exactly one must be drunk. So that's always good. And they're very powerful because you get to learn alignments. You can literally pick a player and be like, okay, I know that they're evil based on that. Village idiot is also then a very good evil bluff because you can just say, "Oh, I'm a village idiot." Uh, you might be because there might be duplicates, right? So you can just hide behind that, or even the entire evil team could become village idiots in that sense. So that's good. Okay, so we have to hit. This is the max that we can do because we can only have 13. That's just the rule of the script building. You must only have 13 townsfolk. I'm still a bit iffy about Dreamer, so I want to remove Dreamer. So I need to put in something else. What else here do I should I? Okay, outsiders is fine because I already have that covered. Misinformation and joy is a name. We have a drunk village idiot. We have philosopher. We have the drunk. We have widow. There's four sources, which is quite a lot already, to be honest. So I'm a bit hesitant to put that in. Do we have enough protection? Pacifist tea lady. The issue with putting too much protection is also the game will take very long. Um, what else can I put? Let's look here. Farmer access in the stream. Continue. Balloonist. No. I don't remember why I put it in my original draft anymore. Okay, in that case, let's just put in something that we have not used before that's going to be very fun. I think we need more reasons for extra kills. Because the only thing that we have is a gossip and an assassin. So what here can help me get extra kills at night? Hmm. Probably have to cut this out because this will take a while. The control, no, the control is going to be very difficult to run. It's going to be very confusing as well. Gambler is always a good one. Gambler helps to cause extra deaths as well. Get some information for the team and is something that people are somewhat familiar with at this point. So, oh, my light went out. And with that, I shall put in a gambler. Okay, I think that's a good script. I'm gonna call it there. I probably have to stress test this a little bit and look through it again. But this is essentially sort of the thought process I go through when I'm building up the script. I want to make sure that everyone is having fun, everyone is not busy being confused all the time, and that there are ways and different strategies that are in play, both from the evil side and the good side. um a lot of information and sorry and a lot of like research goes into this. I don't just go into this blind like I'm doing it right now. I actually have to go and look through, what synergizes well, what other players and other people in the community have stress tested before. And yeah, hopefully this, I mean, who knows, maybe this is not the final script that everyone sees when they play this month, but this is probably what it looks like for now. So yeah, okay. Thank you everyone for listening. I know this took very long. I think it's gonna be a very long video. But I'm glad that if you made it through all the way to the end, thank you so much. It shows that you're the real ones. And yeah, see you guys in the games.